My name is Celeste Monroe. I'm 32 years old, and 5 minutes before I was supposed to walk down the aisle, I found out my father had not been delayed. He had chosen a side. I was standing in my wedding dress, one hand pressed against my ribs, trying to slow my breathing before the music changed, when my phone buzzed on the vanity. I almost let it ring. My fiancé was already waiting. The guests were seated. My veil was pinned. Then I saw my sister's name on the screen. I answered, and before I could speak, Veronica gave a soft little laugh. The kind people use when they want you to know they enjoyed hurting you. "Don't wait for Dad," she said. He chose to stand with me. The room went silent around me. "How could you do this?" I whispered. She didn't hesitate. "You should have known your place." What made it worse was that some part of me believed her before I wanted to. Every birthday where she needed more attention. Every family dinner where her feelings mattered more than mine. Every proud moment where Dad looked away because choosing me would make her angry. I stared at myself in the mirror, dressed like a bride, feeling like the forgotten daughter all over again. Then the door opened. Miriam Clark, the retired school principal who had become more like family to me than most people who shared my last name, stepped inside. She took one look at my face, then at the phone in my hand, and closed the door behind her. "What did she do this time?" she asked. That question almost broke me, because it meant she understood. This didn't look strange to someone who had watched me grow up. I handed her the phone without speaking. Miriam read the message my sister had sent before the call, and her face hardened. "She told you this now?" 5 minutes before the ceremony. "Cruel people love timing," Miriam said. "It lets them pretend the damage was accidental." I wanted to defend my family out of habit. To say maybe Dad misunderstood, maybe Veronica panicked. But those excuses had carried me through childhood, and they felt rotten now. "Celeste," Miriam said, stepping closer, "your father's failure today is not proof that you are hard to love." I looked down at my dress and laughed without humor. "Then why does he keep proving I'm easier to leave?" She didn't flinch. She had known me since I was the quiet girl who stayed after school because I didn't want to go home before dinner. She noticed when I stopped bringing permission slips back signed. She sat beside me at my scholarship ceremony when my father's chair stayed empty. That night, Dad had taken Veronica to a bridal expo in Atlanta because, as he said, she was building her future. I stood on stage with a certificate in my hand, staring at an empty seat. Miriam found me later near the vending machines and said, "A child should never have to pretend an empty chair is normal." Years later, when I became a school counselor, she sent me a note. "The children who feel invisible will know you see them." Dad called my job sweet but impractical. Veronica smiled and said, "Of course you chose a career around broken kids." Everyone laughed because she said it with charm, and I laughed too, because I had been trained to make insults smaller. Now Miriam looked at me standing in white satin. "You have spent your life being reasonable so other people could be selfish without consequences." "Not today." "I still want him here," I said. Her voice softened. "Of course you do. Wanting your father doesn't make you weak. But wanting him doesn't mean he has earned the right to stand beside you." A soft knock came from the other side of the door. The coordinator whispered that Caleb had asked if I needed anything. I closed my eyes. He could feel me from across the building. My own father could ignore me from across a lifetime. I picked up my bouquet. "I need to know what she said to him." Miriam nodded. "Then, let's stop letting her control the story." When I opened the bridal suite door, my hands had stopped shaking, but my heart felt bruised from the inside. The hallway was narrow, lined with framed photographs of the historic library where Caleb and I had chosen to get married. I made it halfway to the side entrance before I saw my sister. Veronica Monroe stood beneath a brass wall lamp in her champagne bridesmaid dress, one hip against the wall, phone in hand, smile waiting. She looked polished, like every room was a stage she had already claimed. She built her career around weddings, styling brides and posting perfect photos. Now she stood outside mine, looking like she had made sure I would remember it for the wrong reasons. "There she is," she said. "I wondered if you were going to hide until everyone got uncomfortable." "Where is Dad?" She tilted her head. "You mean the man I told you not to wait for?" Her eyes flicked to Miriam. This is family business. Miriam stayed calm. Then perhaps you should have acted like family. Tell me what you said to him, I said. I told him the truth. No. You told him whatever would make him feel guilty enough to choose you. Her smile sharpened. Maybe he chose me because he finally admitted I needed him more. There it was. The sentence that explained our whole childhood. Veronica never wanted love unless it proved she could take something from me. You needed him more? Today? She looked me over. Come on, Celeste. Stable job. Perfect little firefighter husband. All your teacher friends acting like you saved the world because you listen to children cry for a living. You'll survive disappointment. I'm the one people actually notice when I fall apart. For 1 second, I almost pitied her. Almost. But I had spent too many years being cut by her emptiness to dress it up as pain. So you called me before my wedding to tell me Dad abandoned me because you wanted attention. Her face hardened. I called because someone needed to remind you that you are not the center of this family just because you found a man willing to marry you. The old me would have looked away. The old me would have softened my voice. But that woman was not standing there anymore. This is my wedding. You were invited to stand beside me. And somehow that still wasn't enough. Veronica pushed off the wall. You know what people have said all morning? How tasteful. How sweet that a school counselor and a paramedic found each other. Everyone is eating up your humble bride story. She paused. So that's what this is about. You wanted the photos, the compliments, the credit. And when people started seeing me instead of you, you attacked the one thing you knew would hurt most. Her nostrils flared. Dad knows you are stronger. He worries about me because I matter in a way you never understood. Before I could answer, Mom appeared at the end of the hall. Elaine Monroe hurried toward us with tears already in her eyes. Please, not here, not today. I turned to her. Did you know? Did you know Dad wasn't planning to walk me down the aisle? She glanced at Veronica, then back at me. That glance told me enough. He was upset, Mom said. Your sister was upset. Everything happened so fast. So you knew. I thought he would come around. Veronica rolled her eyes. See? This is what she does. She makes everything sound like a crime scene. You hurt people and call their pain drama, I said. The hallway fell silent. The coordinator appeared, pale and nervous. Celeste, the music is ready whenever you are. Veronica lifted her chin. Go on then. Show everyone how strong you are. Then the side door opened behind Mom. My father stepped inside, and the look on his face told me he already knew he had chosen wrong. Graham Monroe looked older than he had that morning. Not sorry. Not brave. Just older. Like the weight of what he had done had reached his body before it reached his mouth. He stood near the door, eyes moving from me to Veronica to Mom to Miriam, then down to the floor. My sister's confidence cracked. Dad, why are you here? That question destroyed every excuse he could have offered. He had been somewhere else because Veronica expected him to stay there. I came to talk to Celeste, he said. Veronica stepped toward him. We already talked about this. He flinched at we, and I saw the pattern clearly. She had not asked for his support. She had claimed it. Were you going to let me stand there waiting for you? I asked. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Your sister was very upset, he finally said. It is my wedding day. I know that. Do you? My voice stayed low, but the hallway leaned toward it. She called me 5 minutes before the ceremony and said you chose her. Not that you were delayed. She said you chose to stand with her. Dad closed his eyes for half a second, and I knew he had heard that phrase before. She was afraid, he said, of losing her family, of being pushed aside while everyone worships you today. What did she tell you? I pressed. He rubbed his face. She said she felt like you were replacing them. That this wedding was about your new life. That she felt humiliated. So your solution was to make sure I felt that way instead. He looked wounded, as if my clarity was unfair. I was trying to keep peace. That sentence landed like a slap. It was the family prayer. Keep peace. Stay quiet. Don't upset Veronica. Be easier. Be stronger. Be less. Miriam spoke. Peace that depends on one child swallowing pain is not peace. It is training. Dad looked embarrassed. This is a family matter. It became more than that when your daughter needed an adult and you chose convenience. I looked at him. Dad, did you tell her I always make things emotional and difficult? His eyes flicked to Veronica. There it was. I was frustrated, he said. Did you? Veronica snapped. He said you always turn everything into a test. I looked at her. Thank you. Her face changed when she realized she had helped me. You reward whoever screams loudest and punish whoever stays quiet, I said to him. Then you call the quiet one difficult when she finally speaks. He came, Mom whispered. He is here now. He came because the story might make him look bad. Not because I was hurt. Dad's face crumpled, but I did not save him from shame. He needed to feel it. If I had not found out, I asked, would you have come to me before the ceremony and told me yourself? The silence was complete. That silence answered more honestly than he ever would. He would have let me wait. He would have let me wonder. The coordinator stepped forward. Celeste, we really do need to begin. Dad must have sensed the change in me because panic broke through his shame. Let me walk you down the aisle, he said. The words should have healed something. Once, they would have. Once, I would have grabbed them like bread, telling myself he had come around, that families made mistakes, that the important thing was he was here now. But standing in that hallway, I understood the difference between a gift and a rescue attempt. He didn't offer because he had protected me. He offered because the doors were about to open and people would see what he had done. No, I said. Dad blinked. Mom gasped. Veronica started to smile like my refusal was another wound she could enjoy. Celeste, Dad said softly, the way he used my name when he wanted forgiveness before an apology. Don't do this. I looked at him carefully. This was the man who taught me to scan rooms for disappointment before joy. The man who remembered Veronica's appointments, photo shoots, heartbreaks, and emergencies, but forgot my award nights, my counseling graduation, my first day at the school where I helped children feel seen. He was not a monster. That made it harder. He was a father who loved me in theory and failed me in practice, then expected the theory to be enough. You don't get to perform fatherhood at the last minute, I said. Mom reached for my hand. He is still your father. I pulled back gently. Then he should have acted like one before there was an audience. Veronica's smile vanished. She had expected tears, not boundaries. So what? She said. You're going to punish him forever because I told you the truth? You didn't tell me the truth. You arranged a humiliation and called it honesty. You're being dramatic. No, I'm being clear. She looked at Dad. Say something. But Dad only stood there, finally learning what it felt like to want a place beside someone and not be allowed to claim it. I turned toward Miriam. She had stayed silent, hands folded, eyes full but steady. She looked surprised when my gaze landed on her, like she had never imagined herself at the center of this moment. That was exactly why I wanted her there. She had never loved me for an audience. Miriam, I said, my voice shaking, would you walk with me? Her eyes widened. You were there when my father missed the scholarship ceremony. You signed the recommendation that helped me get into college. You sent me books when I became a counselor. You taught me that children who feel unwanted are not unworthy. You told me today I didn't have to disappear from my own life. Tears filled her eyes. If anyone walks me down that aisle, it should be someone who showed up before anyone was watching. Mom sobbed into her hands. Dad went pale. Veronica's face shifted from disbelief to rage. You're replacing Dad with a retired principal? At your wedding? No, I said. I am choosing the person who treated me like I mattered when there was nothing to gain. Veronica's laugh cracked. Everyone will think you're making some pathetic statement. Good. Maybe some statements need to be made. Dad stepped forward. Celeste, please, don't embarrass me like this. I saw the little girl inside me wanting to protect him from pain even after he failed to protect her. Then I let that little girl rest. I'm not embarrassing you, I said. I'm refusing to hide what you chose. Miriam offered me her arm. Her hand trembled. Mine did, too. The music changed, rich and solemn, and the guests began to rise on the other side of the doors. Veronica looked from me to Miriam to Dad, searching for control and finding none. Her smile disappeared completely. Dad lowered his head and could not look up. I placed my hand on Miriam's arm, lifted my chin, and stepped forward. The doors opened. Inside the restored library, Everything was golden light, polished wood, white flowers, and rows of people turning toward me with smiles that slowly shifted into confusion. I could feel the question moving through the guests. Where was her father? I could feel old shame rising in my throat, telling me to explain, apologize, make everyone comfortable. Then Miriam tightened her arm under my hand and whispered, "Keep walking." So I did. At the altar, Caleb stood in his navy suit, steady and calm. His face changed the instant he understood. He did not look embarrassed. He did not look toward my father. He looked at me like my pain did not make me less worthy of joy. When we reached him, Miriam placed my hand into Caleb's, kissed my cheek, and whispered, "You were never hard to love." I swallowed a sob. Caleb moved his thumb gently across my knuckles. "I've got you," he whispered. The officiant began, and for a while the room settled into the rhythm of a wedding. When it was time for vows, Caleb spoke of building a home where silence would never be punishment, where tenderness would not have to be earned. He said he loved the way I listened to children who felt invisible because I knew what invisibility cost. Then it was my turn. I had written soft, careful vows weeks before, but the woman standing there now could not speak only in softness. "I used to think love meant being easy to choose," I said. "I thought if I asked for less, forgave faster, and stayed quiet long enough, the people who hurt me would finally see me. But real love doesn't make you compete for a place at the table. Real love doesn't use your patience as permission to neglect you. Real love shows up, tells the truth, and protects your dignity when no one is watching." Caleb's eyes filled. Then my father's voice broke through from the back of the room. "Celeste." The room went still. Dad stood near the last row, gripping the back of a chair. Mom was crying beside him. "I failed my daughter today," he said. "And not only today. I let fear make me cruel. I let one daughter's anger excuse my neglect of another. I told myself Celeste was strong enough to handle being hurt. That was cowardice." Veronica rushed forward. "This is ridiculous. She is manipulating all of you. She has always wanted to look like the victim." Heads turned. People were seeing her now. Not the polished wedding stylist. Not the charming older sister. Just her. Caleb stepped slightly in front of me. "This ceremony is not yours," he said calmly. Miriam turned from the front row. A sister who loved her would have protected this moment. Dad's voice came again, lower. "Enough, Veronica." For once, it came before she could finish destroying something. She looked at him as if he had become a stranger. "You're choosing her?" "I'm choosing the truth," he said. Veronica opened her mouth, but nothing came out. The power she had carried for years depended on Dad protecting her from consequences. In that moment, he stopped. I turned back to Caleb. "I'm getting married now." We exchanged rings with shaking hands and clear hearts. When we were pronounced husband and wife, the applause rose like something bigger than celebration. It sounded like relief. It sounded like witness. At the reception, Veronica was not finished. People like my sister don't lose the spotlight quietly. Near the edge of the courtyard, her voice rose. "You humiliated me for her." Dad looked exhausted, but something in him had changed. "No, Veronica. You humiliated yourself." She stared. "After everything I've done for this family, you're defending her?" "I'm admitting I failed her." A guest, a woman who owned a local event company, quietly asked Veronica, "Is it true you called the bride before the ceremony and told her her father had abandoned her?" Veronica's face changed. In 1 second, she realized this was no longer a family argument. This was a professional disaster. The wedding world she wanted to impress was listening. "That's not what happened," she said too fast. "Celeste twisted everything." I stepped forward. "Then say what happened." Veronica looked around. Guests were watching. Dad was watching. For once, Mom didn't interrupt to soften the truth. "Fine," Veronica said, shaking. "I was tired of watching everyone act like she is some innocent saint. She plays small and wounded, and everyone falls for it. I just wanted Dad to prove I still mattered. Not an apology. A confession dressed as self-pity." "You did matter," I said. "You mattered enough to be invited into this day. You mattered enough to stand beside me. But you wanted me humiliated because sharing love has never been enough for you." Her face twisted. You think you won? This was never a game to me, I said. That's why you lost. The venue manager stepped forward. Ma'am, it's time for you to leave. Veronica looked at Dad, waiting for the old rescue. He did not move. That was the real punishment. Not being escorted out, not the whispers, not the guests deciding never to hire her. The real punishment was that the person who always protected her from consequences finally let her stand in them. She left through the side gate, still calling my name, still trying to become the victim of a fire she had lit herself. Dad approached me later. He did not ask for forgiveness. That mattered. He stood a few feet away and said, I see it now. I know seeing it late doesn't erase what I did. Part of me wanted to run into his arms, because daughters don't stop wanting fathers just because fathers fail. But another part of me knew better than to trade one honest moment for instant repair. If you want a relationship with me, I said, it cannot be built on me staying quiet. You don't get to call my pain drama. You don't get to use the word family to make me accept disrespect. And you don't get back the role you lost today with one apology. His eyes filled. I understand. Maybe he did. Maybe he didn't. Time would tell. Mom came too, crying softly. I told her the truth in gentler words. Keeping the peace by asking the hurt person to be silent is not peace. It's permission for harm to continue. Later, Miriam gave a toast. She raised her glass and said, every child deserves adults who show up. And every adult should learn that love is not proven by control, but by consistency. When Caleb and I danced under the lights, I looked back at the aisle where I once thought I would walk in abandoned. Instead, I had walked in with the person who had earned that place through years of quiet loyalty. Veronica had tried to make my wedding a story about rejection. She failed. My father had tried to arrive late and still claim the honor. He lost that right. And I left that night not as the daughter begging broken people to choose her, but as the woman who finally understood that being chosen by the wrong people is not worth losing yourself.